Bang! The first shot hit his back. The vest caught it, but the force sent Kofi stumbling forward, gasping. Bang! Second shot, left shoulder. Pain, white hot. He fell to his knees. Why? He coughed, blood in his mouth. Scarboy stepped closer, gun raised. You think the street belongs to you now? You think you fit steal Jagun's crown? Even his woman? Seji's voice cracked. You should have just stayed humble. Kofi spat blood. Bang, bang. 2 more shots, both to the chest. His body jerked. The vest held, but barely. He collapsed fully now, heart pounding, ears ringing. Then he felt it, hands grabbing his legs, dragging him. His vision blurred, trees melted, sky swirled. And then, water, cold, vast, merciless. They stood at the riverbank now, dark water licking the sand like a quiet monster. Scarboy leaned in one last time. You died the day Mariam looked at you the way she used to look at him. Then they pushed him in. The river swallowed him whole. No struggle, just silence. The car drove off. Dust rose. The sky broke open.
Well, well. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you need to subscribe.
The moon that night was low and red, the kind of moon that Lagos people say means trouble is walking. Jagun was out handling business in Lekki. Scarboy was drunk. Most of the boys were asleep. And Kofi? He was on the balcony, seated on a low plastic stool, legs stretched out, whispering with Mariam. They spoke softly, nothing romantic, just words shared between 2 broken people, pretending they still had something left. You remind me of light, Mariam said quietly. But light doesn't last long in places like this. Kofi shook his head. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know pain, and you wear it like cologne. He chuckled, but even that sounded tired. Mariam leaned her head on her palm. Be careful. Jagun doesn't keep things for long. I'm not doing anything, Kofi whispered. I know, she replied. That's what makes it dangerous. What Kofi didn't know was that someone had been watching. Deji. Silent, sharp, always lingering where he wasn't wanted. He had been leaning against the generator room wall, ear tilted just enough to catch a few words, enough to draw conclusions. And in Jagun's empire, assumptions were currency. When Mariam left the balcony and Kofi stood to return inside, Deji stepped out of the shadows. Kofi. Kofi paused. Wetin happen? Deji walked up slowly, chewing gum, his face calm but eyes alert. You dey wise. People like you dey rise fast. Jagun dey rate you. Street dey talk your name. Kofi nodded once, unsure where this was going. Deji took a step closer, dropped his voice. But no matter how sharp the blade is, he gets some things way you no suppose cut. Kofi blinked. Meaning? Deji laughed quietly. You think say man where they run empire like Jagun no get eyes. Now you I just dey warn. No be fight, no be threat. Just one brother to another. He leaned even closer. His breath was heavy with alcohol and warning. A long silence passed between them. Deji's voice turned cold. And if you put eye for wetin no be your own. Na blindness, go follow. Kofi clenched his jaw. He didn't respond. Deji stepped back, adjusted his chain. Sleep well, young lion, before you wake up in a cage. Then he turned and disappeared into the dark. Kofi stood there for a long time after, and for the first time, he realized just how closely death had started watching him. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but somewhere between the 10th successful drop-off and the 5th late-night escape from police raids, Kofi stopped being just a boy Jagun took in. He became a name. The rain had just started that day, soft drops tapping on the tin roof of the van as it rolled through Ojuelegba. Inside, the boys were tense but quiet. Crates of spare parts sat under a tarp, but every man there knew what was really inside. Scarboy chewed gum hard, pistol tucked on his thigh. Seji kept muttering under his breath, counting the stacks in his head. Kofi sat at the back, eyes sharp. He wasn't used to this much silence on a run. His gut was tight, Something wasn't right. Then it happened. Blue lights flashed, sirens screamed. 2 Hilux trucks cut them off at the roundabout. Armed policemen jumped out, rifles raised. "Stop there, driver, off engine!" Scarboy cursed, hand already on his gun. "I'll spray them." Seji had panic in his eyes. "Boss, go kill us if we lose this load." The van skidded to a halt. Shouts grew louder, flashlights cut through the rain. Kofi's chest pounded, but his eyes stayed cold. He knew Jagun had police on payroll, which meant this raid wasn't normal. Somebody either snitched, or somebody was trying to choke Jagun's empire. "Wait," Kofi said suddenly, voice sharp. "Don't shoot. Look at their formation." The boys turned, confused. Kofi pointed. Half the police had no proper boots. Some wore mismatched vests. "These ones are hungry." Kofi growled. "If you shoot, blood will flow, and we will die both ways." Kofi acted fast. He grabbed the heavy envelope taped under the seat, Jagun's emergency settlement. He shoved it into Seji's hands. "Take this to the one with the cap. He's the one leading the operation. Tell him it's from Jagun direct. Tell him Obalende don't pay for this week already." Seji hesitated. "And if he doesn't agree?" Kofi's eyes didn't blink. "He'll agree. Nobody turns down Jagun's money." Scarboy clenched his jaw, still itching for violence. But he stayed quiet. Minutes dragged like hours. The cash exchanged hands. Voices rose, then lowered. Finally a wave. The trucks pulled back slowly. The road opened. The van rolled forward again, silence thick inside. When they reached base, the story spilled. Scarboy bragged he almost pulled the trigger. Seji swore it was his smooth talking that saved them. The boys argued, but Jagun? Jagun sat in his chair, blunt glowing, watching Kofi from the corner of his eye. "You," Jagun said finally. His voice was flat, unreadable. "How you know?" Kofi shrugged. "Police don't wear canvas." The room erupted in laughter, nervous, relieved. But Jagun didn't laugh. He just leaned back, gold tooth flashing in the dim light. "That's not just eye. That's sense. Street sense. One day, it might save all of us." Scarboy's smile froze. Seji looked down. And that was the night Jagun first thought. This boy is not just a runner. He's a lion in waiting. The street loved Koffi. Unlike Scarboy or Seji or even Jagun, Koffi remembered what it felt like to be hungry, to sleep on concrete, to shake in the rain. So when he rose, he didn't rise alone. He pulled others up with him. In Ajagunle, when Jagun's men were seizing stalls from petty traders to use for stash houses, it was Koffi who stepped in. "Give them 48 hours, he told Jagun. "Let the woman pack her wares. Her son day sick." Jagun scoffed. "Since when street start day pity?" But Koffi held his ground. "If the street does not feel safe with us, the street will turn against us." Jagun gave in, reluctantly. That trader told everyone that Koffi saved her. By the next week, boys in the area started calling him Street Lion because he didn't just eat, he protected the pride. In Mushin, when a rival gang cornered a 14-year-old boy for snatching a phone on their turf, it was Koffi who arrived before the first blade was drawn. He didn't come with guns. He came alone, and he talked. He told them how he was once just like the boy, hungry, reckless, one mistake from becoming ash like Tayo. He left with the boy bruised but alive. The gang let him go because they respected Koffi. But the story that cemented his place happened during a night raid. Jagun had ordered a hit on a stash house in Surulere, said a snitch was hiding there. Koffi led the team. The rain had just started falling when Koffi knocked on the rusted door of a one-room apartment behind an old bakery in Surulere. But when they arrived, Koffi recognized the snitch, a small-time dealer named Malik, who had once helped him escape a police sweep back in his early days. The boys cocked their rifles, but Koffi told them to wait. He pulled Malik aside. "Why you betray Jagun?" he asked. "Talk." Malik was at this point shaking. Malik exhaled, voice breaking. "They took her, bossman." Kofi's brows drew in. "Who?" "My sister, Hawa." Silence. Koffi stepped closer. Start from the beginning. Malik's eyes brimmed. She's 16. She day school for Ojo. Quiet girl. Doesn't even know what I do. I came back one night and she was gone. My neighbor said some boys came in a tinted car. Said they were Jagun's boys. Said she was collateral. Because I owed. Kofi's fists clenched. Who? Malik hesitated. Koffi grabbed him by the collar. Who? Malik whispered. Jide. And Barka. They said if I didn't give them something solid, they'd break her. A pause. And they did. Koffi stepped back like someone slapped him. Malik's voice cracked. She hasn't spoken since she got back. She just stare. Blood everywhere. They returned her like old furniture. My sister was a virgin. She was too young to be humiliated in such a manner. How I go look her for I, who go help me here say nah because of me, them abuse my sister. Without another word, Koffi turned and walked out into the rain. He stormed into the compound at Idi Oro, where Seji and Barka usually crashed. No warning, no strategy, just fury. He kicked down the door of their quarters. They were playing cards, laughing, hi. Koffi, wet in hap? Koffi punched Barka before he could finish, one clean blow to the jaw that sent him flying into the television stand. Jide stood, shocked. Guy, calm down now. Koffi tackled him, slammed him into the wall, fist after fist after fist. Blood spattered the concrete. One of the other boys tried to intervene, but Koffi turned, eyes wild. You abused a child, Jagun said. Don't ever bring his name into this filth. You just go there use boss man, commit atrocities. Barka tried crawling for the door. Koffi kicked him in the ribs. By the time he left, both men were unconscious. And the rest of the boys? They stayed silent. It didn't take long for word to reach Jagun. The next evening, Koffi was summoned. Not with anger, not with shouts, just a message. Boss one see you. Come alone. He entered the room slowly. Jagun sat in his favorite chair, blunt in one hand, glass of whiskey in the other. The lights were dim. Scarboy stood by the door, watching with a smirk. You beat 2 of my men. Koffi didn't blink. Yes. You stormed their quarters like a mad dog. Koffi nodded. Yes. Jagun leaned forward. So explain. Before I decide whether to bury this or bury you. Koffi's jaw tightened. They kidnapped a girl. A child. Used her to pressure her brother. Then violated her. A pause. Jagun. She was 16. Silence. Then Jagun leaned back, exhaled smoke. You think the street is clean? You think we run a charity here? I think there's a line, Koffi said coldly while bowing his head to the ground. And they crossed it. Jagun stared at him. Long, quiet. Then smirked. That's your problem, Koffi. You think the street loves you. You forget the street, don't love no one. It just uses who fits the season. Koffi turned to leave. Jagun called out. Next time you feel the urge to be a hero, remember who gave you your first bulletproof. Don't tear my kingdom apart while I am still the king. Koffi didn't look back. He just replied, yes, boss. He walked out, heart pounding, fists still bloodied, knowing the line had been drawn. And whether he liked it or not, nothing will remain the same. The first time it came, Koffi thought it was just sleep playing tricks. He was back in the house. But not the house as it used to be. The house was already burning. Flames curled across the wooden beams. Smoke swallowed the air. His chest tightened with every breath. Through the smoke he saw them. His father, coughing, trying to pull open a door that wouldn't budge. His mother, wrapped in her ankara, clutching the Bible against her chest. She looked straight at him, eyes wet but steady. Koffi. Her lips moved. But the fire roared too loud. He couldn't hear. He ran toward her, arms outstretched, but every step sank deeper, like the ground had turned to tar. The flames grew taller, closing in. His father's shouts faded. His mother reached out, her hand blistered, trembling, and she whispered again. Koffi, listen. And then he woke. Sweat drenched his body. His breath came in gasps. Around him, only the silence of the streets. The dream clung to him like smoke. He thought it would stop. It didn't. Night after night, it returned. Always the same fire. Always the same eyes. Always the same whisper he couldn't quite catch. Sometimes he screamed awake, heart racing. Sometimes he sat frozen in the dark, staring at the shadows, afraid to close his eyes again. But one thing became clear. His mother was trying to tell him something. Boys on the street started coming to Kofi when they had problems, not Jagun. A sick mum, a lost cousin, a question about what next. He didn't always have answers, but he listened. And in the street, that's rare. He had the money, the power, the rank. But it was his heart they remembered, not the bullets, not the drops, not even the guns. It was the way he made them feel human again, even in a world built to forget them. That's why the street loved Kofi. Because for once, someone from the mud rose with his soul intact. The air inside Jagun's apartment grew heavier by the day. Not because of the smoke from what he took or the heat from the barely working fan, but because of the tension that moved like a ghost through the walls, a slow, creeping energy. One that always seemed to settle when Mariam entered the room. Mariam. She had become a fixture in Kofi's mind, the one thing he couldn't control or ignore. It wasn't just her beauty, though. She had that in abundance. It was the sadness in her eyes, the way she stared into nothing when the room was full, the way she flinched before Jagun raised his voice, the way she smiled, but never with her eyes. She had started to linger around Kofi more often in secret. She sometimes needed someone to talk to, and Kofi seems like a friend indeed, offering him food when no one else was watching, asking soft questions with deep meaning. "Do you still remember your mother's face?" she asked one night. Kofi was quiet, then nodded. "I remember her laugh more than her face. That's the part that fades last," she said, without looking at him. There was nothing romantic between them, no touch, no flirt. But something was building. Jagun noticed, but he didn't speak on it, not yet. But his mood changed. He started watching Kofi more closely, sending him on riskier jobs, longer trips, testing his loyalty in small, almost invisible ways. Mariam noticed. One evening, after a long day of delivery runs, Kofi returned to base to find Mariam in the kitchen alone, stirring stew. She didn't greet him with words. Just silence, until she finally whispered, "You need to leave." Kofi blinked. "What?" "Jagun will change. I've never." "You don't have to," she interrupted. "Jagun doesn't need proof, just suspicion." Kofi leaned against the wall. "Why are you telling me this?" She turned to him, for the first time, truly looking into his eyes. "Because you're the only good thing in this place, and he'll destroy you before he lets you rise." The room fell silent. Just the sound of boiling stew and thunder rumbling far away. Kofi stepped back, unsure what to feel. Fear, anger, desire. Mariam walked toward him, close enough that he could smell the shea butter in her hair. "I wish I met you before this life," she whispered. Kofi held her gaze. "It's not too late." She smiled. Broken, beautiful. It always is. That night, Kofi couldn't sleep. Jagun sat outside smoking, pretending not to watch. Scarboy and Seji had started treating him with forced respect, the kind laced with envy. And Mariam had said everything without saying much. By morning, a message came through Jagun's line. A new job, risky, remote, high reward. And Kofi was leading it, alone. He glanced at Jagun's face as the orders were given. Something didn't feel right. Later that afternoon, Mariam stopped him as he was packing. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling. "Be careful," she said. "Please, don't trust anyone." Kofi paused. "Why?" She didn't answer. She just hugged him tightly, 1 second too long, one breath too shaky. Kofi pulled away slowly. Kofi stared at her. And for the first time since the fire, He felt cold inside. It was supposed to be a routine job. Deliver 2 loaded parcels to a drop point on the outskirts of town. Return with payment. Simple, clean. The kind of job Kofi had handled effortlessly over the past few months. He wore the black polo blaze once gifted him, but beneath it he followed Mariam's advice and strapped on the only bulletproof vest Jagun ever gave him during a training demo. Use am to understand pressure, Jagun had said months ago, laughing. Pressure was now a living thing in Kofi's chest. Scarboy and Seji were his assigned partners for the operation. They hadn't spoken much in the car. Seji played music at low volume. Scarboy drove like he had a purpose that had nothing to do with the job. Kofi kept glancing at them. Their hands, their eyes, their silence. Something was off. By the time they reached the outskirts, an abandoned clearing by a shallow river, the sun had dipped behind thick clouds. No one was at the drop point. Scarboy stepped out first, his gun tucked too loosely in his back pocket. Seji lit a cigarette, pacing. Kofi got out slowly. His eyes scanned the trees, the water, the silence. He turned to Seji. "Where's the client?" Scarboy chuckled, a low, wicked laugh. Then Seji stepped forward, leaned in close, and whispered, "The client is death, Kofi, and we were sent to deliver you to its claws." Silence. Then, bang! The first shot hit his back. The vest caught it, but the force sent Kofi stumbling forward, gasping. Bang! Second shot, left shoulder. Pain, white-hot. He fell to his knees. "Why?" He coughed, blood in his mouth. Scarboy stepped closer, gun raised. "You think the street belongs to you now? You think you fit steal Jagun's crown? Even his woman?" Seji's voice cracked. "You should have just stayed humble." Kofi spat blood. Bang, bang. 2 more shots, both to the chest. His body jerked. The vest held, but barely. He collapsed fully now, heart pounding, ears ringing. Then he felt it, hands grabbing his legs, dragging him. His vision blurred, trees melted, sky swirled. And then, water, cold, vast, merciless. They stood at the riverbank now, dark water licking the sand like a quiet monster. Scarboy leaned in one last time. "You died the day Mariam looked at you the way she used to look at him." Then they pushed him in. The river swallowed him whole. No struggle, just silence. The car drove off. Dust rose. The sky broke open. Rain began to fall. The bulletproof vest had absorbed enough, but he was bleeding, weak, floating in and out of consciousness. Darkness circled him like wolves. And then, hands, warm, firm, pulling him. A woman's voice, shaking with urgency. "Stay with me, I've got you." Then everything went black. When he woke, he was wrapped in sheets, his chest bandaged, pain pulsing through every part of him. The room was dim, cool, clean. The ceiling above him was wooden, strange, clean. The air smelled like antiseptic, lemongrass and hot balm. Light filtered softly through sheer curtains. Somewhere outside, a goat bleated and a generator hummed. Bandages wrapped around his shoulder, side, back. Then she stepped in. Slim, braided hair, eyes sharp, familiar, yet not. "You're safe," she said softly. Kofi coughed. Who are you?" She sat beside him. "My name is Ruka Adetola." A pause. "I'm Mariam's sister." Kofi's breath caught. Ruka nodded, eyes already moist. "Mariam is dead. She's gone." Kofi's jaw trembled as everything went quiet. Then Kofi whispered, "How? Did you know I was walking into a trap?" Ruka exhaled. "Because Mariam told me." She stood now, pacing slowly, the words spilling with the weight of 3 years. "I'm a policewoman, CID, Lagos State Command. I've been trying to bring Jagun down for years, quietly, from the inside. Do you know what hurts the most about losing her?" Kofi looked up. She died, long before she stopped breathing. She sat down on the floor beside him, back against the wall, eyes still heavy with unshed tears. "Let me tell you something. We were born in Jagunle. Same mother, same father, same roof that leaked during rainy season. Mariam was my baby sister, only 2 years younger, but she always felt like my responsibility. I was the fighter, stubborn, always reading, always trying to escape the cycle. She was the light, the kind of girl who could make a whole street laugh with just one sentence. We had nothing, but we had each other. We used to dream, start a little boutique. I'd handle business, she'd handle the customers, sell clothes, not our bodies. That was the plan. But life had other ideas. Our father died when we were teenagers, collapsed on the roadside from a heart attack. Our mother never recovered, started drinking heavily, stopped talking, stopped showing up. That's when the street came knocking. I kept my head down, fought my way into school, did every odd job you can imagine. Mariam, she found Jagun. It started small. He used to wait for her after school, gave her small gifts, slippers, perfume, shawarma. I warned her, he's a street god. His hands are bloody. She laughed. You're just jealous. He treats me like a queen. But queens don't come home with bruises. Queens don't start hiding money under their mattress because they're afraid of being robbed by the man they love. I watched my sister disappear in stages. She started lying. Then came the drugs of all sort. Then, whatever he gave her. I tried everything. I begged. I yelled. I fought her. One night I even dragged her to a rehab center in Oshodi. She ran away after 2 days. But no matter what I did, she always went back to him. Ruka, she told me once. He's the only one who doesn't treat me like I'm broken. But she was broken, and he made sure she stayed that way. The worst part? Jagun never knew I existed. She never told him she had a sister. She said she was protecting me. You see, Jagun was once a nobody. He grew up in Mushin, orphan, street smart, started selling Kana before he was 15. At 18, he got arrested for armed robbery. Spent 3 years in Kirikiri, came out harder, smarter, and more connected. So I became a shadow, watching from a distance, stalking his operations, gathering what I could as a cop, trying to build a case. But Jagun was untouchable. Every time I came close, the file vanished. A judge got paid, a colleague got scared. So I gave up, until she called, after 4 years of silence. It was 1:13 a.m. My phone rang. It was her. Voice cracking. Ruka. I nearly dropped the phone. Mariam, where are you? She didn't answer that. She just said, I think I've taken too much. I can't feel my body. I froze. She was crying, whispering, slurring. They're going to kill him, Ruka. Kofi, you have to save him, please. He's not like the others. He still has a chance. Then she said something that'll haunt me forever. You were always the strong one. I just wanted to be loved. And the line went dead. I traced the call. By the time I found her, she was already cold. Alone, face down in an abandoned warehouse in Amukoko, syringe still in her arm. My baby sister, gone. Ruka's voice broke. I've seen corpses before, Kofi. I've zipped bags, tagged toes. It's part of the job. But nothing prepares you for seeing your own blood lying lifeless in filth. She wiped her cheek, jaw clenched. I couldn't save her, but I can damn sure bury the man who broke her. She looked at Kofi now, eyes sharp. She died asking me to save you, and if you really meant anything to her, you'll help me finish this. Kofi stared at her, tears on his face. Ruka leaned in. You're the crack in his empire, because he never expected you to survive. He thinks you're dead. The streets think you're gone. Kofi swallowed hard. And what about you? What do you want? I want justice, Ruka said, her voice trembling. For Mariam, for all the girls he's trafficked, all the people he's buried. Kofi frowned, his eyes narrowing. Trafficked? What do you mean? Ruka gave a sharp, bitter laugh, the kind that carried no humor. You really think Jagun only moves powder and cash? She stood, pacing the small room, her voice heavy with disgust. Koffi. Jagun is not just a street lord. He is a kingpin, a supplier, a middleman for people who trade girls like bags of rice. He has politicians in his pocket, policemen on his payroll, and pastors who bless his blood money. You think his power comes from just selling drugs? She stopped, staring at him with fire in her eyes. It comes from selling lives. The words hit Koffi like stones. His mind spun. He thought back to Malik's broken voice, to Hawa's shattered silence, to the laughter of Barka and Jide before he beat them bloody. He thought of Mariam's bruises, her dead eyes, the way she whispered, "He's the only one who doesn't treat me like I'm broken." Pieces of a puzzle he never knew existed began to snap together. "So that's what Barka meant," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "That's why they abused Hawa. That's why Mariam never escaped." Ruka's jaw tightened. "Now you see. Jagun isn't just your enemy, Koffi. He is the system. He is rot in human skin. And the deeper you go, the more you'll see how far his shadow reaches." Koffi stared at the floor, chest rising and falling fast. The weight of this truth pressed down like chains. For the first time, Koffi understood this wasn't just revenge. It was a war against a monster he once served. Koffi wasn't the same boy who once snatched bags to eat. That boy died at the riverbank. This version of Koffi, he was reborn in blood, betrayal, and silence. And he had a new mission. Not to rise, not to survive, but to end Jagun. He had been in coma for 3 months, and this time he was ready to take Jagun Kingdom by storm. The street didn't mourn. There were no candles, no graffiti tributes on walls, no hashtags or stories whispered in corners. The street just moved on, and Koffi, once its lion, had become a memory they no longer mentioned. Just another lost body swallowed by betrayal and Lagos water. 6 months had passed since the bullets kissed his vest, and the river held him like a coffin. Koffi stood by the narrow window of the safe house. Ruka hid him in an old compound in Igando, with peeling paint, creaky floors, and neighbors too tired to care. He wore a plain grey hoodie, his hair grown out, his body thinner but harder. The city outside roared like it always did. Danfoss screamed. Generators hummed. And deep within, the same empire that tried to bury him still thrived. Jagun was bigger now. Scarboy and Seji had moved up the ranks. More turf, more drugs, more money. Each morning, Ruka updated him. Photos, names, streets, operations. "Scarboy runs Mushin now," she said one evening, laying down fresh surveillance photos. "He handles the bulk movement." "Seji?" Koffi asked. "Shuttles Lekki. Deals mostly with the politicians and baby cartels." Kofi's eyes narrowed. "And Jagun?" Ruka's voice dropped. "Still untouchable. Still hiding in the shadows. No one sees him unless he calls for them." Koffi stood, pacing slowly. "You know what that means, right?" he said, voice low. Ruka nodded. "We cut off his arms first, then take his head." That night, Koffi walked to the small mirror in the hallway. He stared at his reflection. He looked older. Not by age, but by pain, by betrayal. He touched the long scar across his side, then picked up a small razor from the table and shaved his head clean. As the hair fell, he let go of the past. That Koffi was gone. The next day, he put on a delivery rider uniform. Helmet, gloves, long sleeves. He moved like smoke through the city. No one recognized him, but he recognized everyone. He saw Seji laughing at a beer parlor at Yaba. He saw Scarboy slapping a boy at a checkpoint. He took note of addresses, car numbers, patterns. He was building a map of revenge. Ruka watched from afar, always close enough in case things went south. "You sure you're ready for this?" she asked one night as they reviewed their wall of intel. Koffi looked up, eyes burning. "Yes, I am." Night in Lagos has a rhythm, horns fading into hush, generator hums clashing with sirens, and footsteps that mean more than just walking. Koffi had learned to read those sounds. He crouched in the back of a moving keke, hood pulled low, eyes locked on the unmarked white van ahead. Inside the van was Scarboy's latest drug shipment, quiet transfer, no street noise, just subtle logistics. But Kofi wasn't interested in stealing. He was interested in making Scarboy bleed. From behind the tinted keke curtain, he tapped twice on the metal rail. The driver, Ruka, wearing fake braids and a worn wrapper, gave a curt nod. They turned into an alley off Bodie Thomas, and Kofi slipped out. Scarboy's supply base was an abandoned 2-story building near the Ijesha bus depot, the kind of place no one asked questions about. A generator growled at the back, and 2 boys in black hoodies smoked weed by the side gate, cradling rifles like toddlers. Kofi watched from the shadows, quick, silent, like a ghost, trained by hunger and betrayal. The first guard didn't see it coming. A chokehold from behind, 3 seconds, out cold. The second turned. Kofi's fist met his throat, 1 hit. The boy collapsed, gasping. Kofi dragged both behind a dumpster and slipped inside. The warehouse reeked of sweat, old cement, and fear. Stacks of rice bags lined the walls, only they weren't rice. Compressed drugs, packed like provisions. 3 men inside, counting, laughing, loud music playing from a radio. Kofi crouched behind a pillar and reached into his backpack. A small bottle, petrol, a soaked rag, a lighter. No noise, no gunfire, just a message. He remembered Ruka's warning. He lit the rag, tossed it between the stacks. Flame met chemical. Boom! The explosion was massive. Flames spread. Screams followed. Kofi was already out the back before the men even understood what had hit them. By the time fire trucks arrived, the entire building was up in smoke. Millions gone. Scarboy pulled up in his Hilux at 2 a.m., face twisted, rage boiling, phone glued to his ear. Find who did this. Find him. But no one had seen anything. Scarboy's hands shook. Jagun called him that night, and for the first time in years, Scarboy couldn't stop sweating. The warehouse fire made the headlines, but it was the note that haunted Scarboy. This is just the beginning. The dead man. He read it again and again. Each time his hands shook. The drugs were gone, supplies torched, routes compromised, customers were screaming. Jagun, silent. But that silence was worse than any threat. Scarboy knew what that meant. He was 1 mistake away from being the next body in the gutter. His men gathered the next morning, maybe 20 of them. Scarboy stood in front of them, shirtless, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his back, a pistol in his hand. "You see this nonsense?" he barked, holding up a burnt remnant of the warehouse tarp. "Someone here thinks they can play pranks." No one responded. Silence, stillness. He turned to Cobra, one of his oldest boys, loyal, but recently close to Seji. "You dey see the nonsense way they happen?" "Boss, I'm sorry this was under my watch." Bang! The bullet ripped through Cobra's kneecap. The compound exploded in screams. Cobra collapsed, howling, grabbing his leg. "Nah, example I just give," Scarboy spat, pacing. "This ain't no playground. This is our empire, and if anybody here thinks they can play Judas, I go bury you alive." Later that night, in his room, Scarboy locked the door and pulled out his old journal that contains the names of different people they have ended. He flipped the pages. As he glanced through the chapter labeled Past Ghosts, over 70 people died, and Koffi was the most recent. Scarboy threw the book away. "Can't be him," he muttered to himself. But his hands wouldn't stop trembling. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Ojo, Koffi moved unnoticed through the night market, mapping Scarboy's soldiers who was truly loyal, who was scared, who could be flipped, because he wasn't just trying to bring them down, he was planning to dismantle them, brick by brick, loyalty by loyalty. In Mushin, Scarboy held a closed-door meeting with Seji and 2 other lieutenants. "Listen, I need a full lockdown. No runs, no supply, no movement. We can't let Jagun think we've lost control. Outside, In a black car, someone watched the building from a distance. Camera lens in hand, voice recorder active. Ruka smiled to herself in the passenger seat. "Kofi," she whispered. "You got him exactly where you want him." In the game of war, paranoia is a disease. And Scarboy was already infected. The city never sleeps, but sometimes it watches. For weeks, Lagos had been whispering. The fire at Scarboy's warehouse, the sudden disappearance of his soldiers, the note signed by the dead man. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. It was prophecy. Scarboy barely ate, barely slept. He barked at his men like a mad dog, pistol always in hand, finger twitching too close to the trigger. Every shadow looked like Kofi. Every silence sounded like footsteps. Seji noticed. "Boss, we dey lose guard," one of his boys muttered one night as Scarboy paced their compound, shirtless, eyes bloodshot. Scarboy spun on him, veins bulging in his neck. "Say that again. I don't mean any disrespect, but Jagun dey watch. If we mess up, now our blood go mop floor." Scarboy sneered but said nothing. That same night, on the other side of the city, Kofi crouched on a rooftop with Ruka. Below them, a quiet transfer was happening, one of Seji's boys passing a brown envelope to a councilman. "Politics," Ruka whispered. "This is how Jagun stays untouchable." Kofi's jaw clenched. Not anymore. The next morning, photos of the transaction appeared in the inbox of a hungry journalist who had been waiting years to expose corruption in Lagos politics. By noon, the councilman was trending on radio stations. By evening, police raided his office. In his safe house, Kofi spread the intel across the table. Photos, maps, handwritten notes. Every string of Jagun's empire pinned and connected like veins on a body. The city buzzed with rumors. Scarboy's warehouse had burned, millions gone in smoke. A politician Jagun had on payroll was trending on radio, disgraced before the world. Supplies delayed, soldiers disappearing. The empire was leaking blood, and in the cracks of that empire, two shadows moved. Kofi and Ruka sat in the safe house, the table between them littered with maps, photos, and names. But tonight wasn't about strategy. It was about silence, the kind that comes after tears. Ruka's hands shook as she folded Mariam's old photo in her hand. She kept staring at it, whispering under her breath. "I warned you." She knew this life would eat her, and it did. Kofi watched her. For the first time since the river, he saw someone whose pain matched his. "She didn't die for nothing," he said. Ruka's jaw tightened, her eyes glistened. "Then make me a promise." Kofi leaned closer. "That Jagun doesn't just lose business, he loses everything. His boys, his crown, his name." Kofi's voice was steady. "He'll drown." Their hands touched on the table. That same night, Jagun's apartment shook with his voice. The air was thick with smoke, but not calm smoke. This was the smoke of fury, blunt forgotten in the ashtray. Whiskey glass shattered against the wall. Scarboy and Seji stood before him like schoolboys awaiting a beating. "You think this is a joke?" Jagun roared, veins bulging in his neck. "My warehouse gone, a politician I pay millions arrested. My customers are pulling out, and you," he jabbed his finger at Scarboy, then at Seji, "you stand here like two goats that don't know their own slaughterhouse." Scarboy stammered. "Boss, we dey try lock things down, we dey search." Jagun slammed his fist on the table. "Search? Search? Since when lion dey search for flies? If a ghost walks, then it's because you fools left the grave open." Seji's lips trembled. "We go fix am, boss." Jagun's hand flew across his face, one sharp, stinging slap that sent him staggering into the wall. "Fix am?" Jagun spat. His gold tooth glinted, but there was no smile now, only rage. "You better fix am before I fix both of you, 6-foot Balar. I built this empire with blood. You think I'll let a shadow tear it down?" The room went silent. Scarboy's hands shook. Seji rubbed his cheek, eyes wide with fear. Jagun leaned forward, voice low and venomous. "If the street believes a dead man walks, then we will show them a corpse. Find him, end him, or don't come back. He turned away, dismissing them like trash. But his final words cut deeper than bullets. This empire will not fall while I breathe. And, to friend, outside, the night smelled of rain. Scarboy and Seji stood in the compound, hearts pounding, neither daring to look at the other. But somewhere, not too far away, Kofi and Ruka watched from the shadows. And Ruka whispered, almost like a prayer. He's breaking. The lion is wounded. Now we hunt. The order had been given. Jagun's roar still rang in their ears. If Kofi is a ghost, then find the grave he crawled from and burn it shut. Now Scarboy and Seji were on the move. From Mushin to Ojuelegba, from Surulere to Obalende, the word spread fast. Search every alley, question every boy, sniff out every whisper. Posters of missing men were ripped from walls. Police officers were bribed for morgue records. Street preachers were beaten for mentioning resurrection. But no one had answers, because no one had seen Kofi. And yet, the fear was real. Shadows made Scarboy twitch. Footsteps behind Seji turned his stomach cold. He felt someone was watching, but he had no idea who was watching him. Across the city, in the safe house, Kofi and Ruka watched the storm unfold from a distance. They're tearing themselves apart, Ruka murmured, scanning through intercepted police chatter. Jagun has them chasing ghosts, and the more they hunt, the more careless they become. Kofi leaned against the wall, arms crossed, face set like stone. Scarboy is desperate. Desperate men make mistakes. And mistakes, Ruka added, are how we catch them. Jagun heard it all. The empire he had built with sweat and blood was slipping, drop by drop. Clients were calling in anger. Soldiers were hiding instead of fighting. His name, once iron, was starting to rust. For the first time in years, Jagun made the call himself. Not to street boys, not to his lieutenants, to the police. He walked into the Lagos State CID headquarters in Ikeja, gold tooth flashing under the harsh white lights, flanked by two of his most trusted bodyguards. Heads turned as he entered fear, and recognition followed him like a shadow. Inside, he was ushered into the office of ACP Balogun, a stout man with tired eyes and a stomach heavy from too many bribes. This was one of Jagun's oldest allies, the man who made files disappear, the man who buried raids before they began. Boss Jagun, Balogun greeted nervously, wiping sweat from his brow. Long time. Wetin bring you personally? Jagun dropped heavily into the chair opposite. Problem. A big one. There's a ghost in my street, and I need him gone. Balogun frowned. Ghost. Jagun leaned in, his voice sharp as broken glass. You know the name. Kofi. Young lion. They say he's dead, but my boys they swear he still they walk. Warehouse burn. Politician disgrace. Scarboy they shake. Seji they panic. I know fit they chase shadow. I need police eyes. Balogun swallowed hard. You want me to open case file? Jagun sneered. No file. Files leak. I want it silent. I need you to find it before the street does. Balogun nodded quickly, already calculating his cut. We go comb through CCTV, morgue records, undercover reports. If he day alive, we go find Am. As Jagun rose to leave, he glanced at the open office door. A young female officer was passing through the corridor, her arms full of files. Her hair was braided back neatly, her uniform crisp. She carried herself with the quiet discipline of someone who had seen too much. Jagun froze. His gold tooth stopped glinting. His breath caught. Because the officer's face. It was Mariam's face. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, looked again. The officer glanced up briefly, just enough for their eyes to meet. Jagun's chest tightened. His heart, cold for years, stuttered once. She had the same eyes, the same sharpness. Who be that? Jagun muttered to Balogun. Balogun followed his gaze. Ah, that's Inspector Ruka, one of my best in CID. Sharp girl. Don't worry, she no day near your matter. But Jagun wasn't listening anymore. His eyes tracked her until she disappeared down the hallway. Ruka. The name rang like an old bell. For the first time in a long time, Jagun felt something he couldn't name. Curiosity, unease, a ghost of his own. He left the station in silence, but the question gnawed at him. And why did she look so much like Mariam? Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this.